Hey guys, it's Ryan Fowler with MindChrysalis with the Inner Game Group here with Jordan Kurtz, my good friend, and also Tim Costello, also my good friend, 2 certified hypnotherapists. And we have a good one today. It's ground we've covered before, but Dr. Gabor Mate says it so well and always gives some nuance, some new aspects to this topic that are worth mentioning. Of particular note, he's going to talk about his childhood trauma, but how he was traumatized, even though he had a mother who loved him and wanted the best for him. So that's kind of an aspect of toxic shame and childhood trauma we haven't thoroughly explored before. So we're going to explore that today. Dr. Gabor Mate, world famous scientist. He also talks about how he took psychedelics and it cleared his trauma. And it's very interesting because psychedelics, psilocybin, the one he took, illegal in 48 states, illegal under federal law. The pharmaceutical industry, watch the Netflix show How to Change Your Mind, has managed to make the most effective treatments. Most of them managed to make them illegal because they are a bunch of bastards. So to hell with those greedy guys. We're going to show you the truth. But before we dive into that, Tim and Jordan, welcome to the show. Jordan, your camera's off. We'll start with Tim.
He's repairing his set. Yeah, I'm Tim Costello with tchypno.com. You can get a hold of me right there at the screen, Tim at tchypno.com. And Jordan's back. That's awesome. I love this topic because I think Gabor Mate is sort of the front runner of everything going on because he talks so much about how everything that goes on in your life affects your decisions and your life and your health. He's going to talk about it. We'll listen to him.
100%. And Jordan, introduce yourself. Welcome to the show.
I'm Jordan Kurtz with Jordan Kurtz Hypnosis. Like these guys, I help you find your limiting beliefs and remove them and help you discover and amplify the good beliefs inside of you.
Very good. Welcome to the show, Jordan. So just so you guys know what we do, I just last week released a video on something called super neuroplasticity. I've never seen the term used before, but with what we do, it's the most appropriate word for it. If you watch this video, I recommend everyone watch it. Dr. Andrew Huberman, over 5 million subscribers, Stanford neuroscientist, world-class scientist. He gave a presentation actually about 3 years ago on how you can put your mind in a certain state to create neuroplasticity. He actually talks about how hypnosis puts your mind in a state of accelerated neuroplasticity. That's what I mean when I say neuroplasticity in this video. I'm going to start using the term more and more because it's the only way to really describe, like if I say hypnosis, people are like, oh, those stage hypnotists going to make you cluck like it's chicken. So it's really misleading to use that term. The most accurate term for what we do is super neuroplasticity, which means we rewire certain parts of your brain at a profound level very rapidly and permanently. And the number one thing rewire is what Dr. Gabor Mate is talking about today, because everyone has some childhood trauma. He's going to go in today about his mom loved him, but he still had abandonment issues. Why? Well, his mom was doing the absolute best to take care of him, but some stuff came up. His mom, her parents were killed in World War II, the Holocaust. I'm not sure if she went to a concentration camp or not, but they had to do some things just to survive that traumatized her. Him just viewing her trauma, you'll see, traumatized him. So a lot of kids pick up trauma in childhood. I mean, all of us do to a degree, some greater or lesser trauma. Doesn't mean we had to have a horrible childhood or anything like that. It could be other stuff. Everyone should find these parts of the brain affected by negative things that happen in our childhood and rewire them. And that's what we do. And when you do it, huge benefit. You just take off. Tim can't keep up with his wife's business because she tried to start a business 20, 30 times, never could do it. We did one session, cleared that block. She's taken off. So, Tim, probably in 3 years, he'll have his own private island because your business is taken off. But this stuff is powerful.
It'll be an island about this big.
Yeah, there you go. But if you guys want to experience super neuroplasticity, where you go in and intentionally change parts of your subconscious that give you unnecessary anxiety, some anxiety is necessary, a lot of it's not in today's world. Procrastination, feeling not good enough, other internal struggles, limiting beliefs, etc. You can actually do it right now for free. We have a process for free. And so just go to our school.com community MindChrysalis right here. Join, it's free, and we have a 6-part. You click once you join, click on the Classroom tab, SOS free. 6-part series on how to reprogram your subconscious. Comes with a self-hypnosis audio, comes with worksheets where you can actually find out what is in you that needs to fix, because a lot of people don't know about that. Dr. Mate talks about that today, finding out what's in you that needs fixing. We have a process to discover that, train you how to do self-hypnosis. There's an ebook on how your subconscious mind works. Download it right there. And then you actually go in and rewire your subconscious. Now, I'm 2 videos away. I have 1 video this week. The next video is going to show a guy from our community who used this and fixed his procrastination, got himself unstuck, and now his business that he was struggling to get off the ground is now just taken off. So this stuff really works. I've had people contact me out of the blue, Ryan, you don't know me. I did your self-hypnosis. I lost 50 pounds. I feel way better. I have 30 written testimonials, people only using the self-hypnosis. This is powerful stuff. And if about 80% of people are going to be able to benefit from this, some of you have more complicated situations. You need one-on-one guidance. We do one-on-one sessions too. You can schedule a free 30-minute consult with me. All that stuff's in the description. But if you want to experience super neuroplasticity for yourself, absolutely check this out. It's free. Change your life. If you let it and you take it seriously, it will benefit you. So now moving on to this Dr. Gabor Mate clip. Very, very interesting. He talks about his grandparents killed in the Holocaust, his background with that. Tim and Jordan, do you have anything you'd like to say before we dive into the clip?
Yeah, I want to go back to basics real quick, just so everybody knows what we're talking about. Neuroplasticity is the process the brain uses to learn, adapt, and develop the software that it's going to run on the rest of your life. When you are born into a neuroplastic state, 100%. You don't know anything. You're trying to figure it out. And everything that you're doing is and you'll hear Gabor Mate talk about this, very narcissistic in style, because you don't know anything. You can't maybe even talk yet. And you're trying to figure out exactly what's going on around you. And a lot of the things that you observe, you may tend to take it upon yourself subconsciously that you are the problem of those things, even though you're not, including outward abuse, actually committing the act of abuse, or omitting the act of abuse and just providing neglect. By the time you're about the age of 8, you're about 75% locked in.
Wired, yeah.
14, you're probably 95 to 98% locked in, and you can develop a little bit more to the time you're about 25 years old. When you're 25 years old, roughly, give or take for different people, you are locked in to the software that runs your life the rest of your life. So researchers, and Dr. Huberman talks about this, researchers will, a couple of famous guys that he followed said that you can no longer change your brain past the age of 25. But he has discovered, and what we use is that you now can go back, put yourself into a state of mind, relaxation, lower the frequency of your brain, just like when you're 0 to 8 years old, and strip out that trauma that was developed and reprogram that with a good program that's now going to serve you the rest of your life. So it literally, the things that we do is it is a permanent, tremendous change. You can do a lot of this for free, like Ryan said, or you can schedule one-on-ones with us, and we will walk you through a little bit about what we do. But this super neuroplasticity that we're dealing with is scientifically proven. We're not making this stuff up. This isn't some vitamin that's going to make you 12 years old again. This is the real deal. And I've seen firsthand experience with it, and I've seen second and third hand experience with it. So it's super, super real. Jordan.
Ditto.
Yeah. We did a session for you. I changed my life with it. Changed Jordan's life, changed your wife's life, Tim.
Yep.
And there's 24 testimonials in the video section. People massively up leveling 1, 2, 3 sessions, lives way better, permanently better. Video section of this YouTube channel. You can watch that too. It's a real deal. Sorry, keep going. Sorry to interrupt.
That's all I had.
Jordan was done.
You asked me about. I don't have any comments on the Gabor Mate thing just yet. We can get started.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will dive in and let's get straight to the clip, guys.
And let's make a pact, and I'll do it as well. That we
get
at least 5 minutes in before we stop.
All right, we'll watch it for 5 minutes straight before saying anything.
That's hard to do. I get it. It's hard to do because
Jordan's
this is so feature rich.
All right. Well, let's say 3. We'll say 3.
Okay, let's say 3.
All right. I'm not stopping until the 5-minute mark. Here we go.
My dear little man, only after many long months do I take it in hand, the pen, so that I may briefly sketch for you the unspeakable horrors of those times, the details of which I do not wish you to know. Those are words that your mother wrote into her diary in the 1940s during the Holocaust.
She wrote those words in April of 1945, 3 months after the Soviet army expelled the Nazis from Budapest, which is where we lived. So she was referring to the previous year and the beginning of that year, late 1944 and early 1945.
And in those diary entries, she's addressing many of them to you directly as a baby.
She wrote the diary to me directly, as if it was like an account of my life addressed to me.
You talk so much in all your books and much of your work about the importance of that early context. It's really been the center point of all the writing that I've read recently. And I know, because it's so evident in everything that you've done, that's been a key. Your own early context has been a key inspiration for why you've taken such an interest in these topics. What was your early context? What do I have to understand about your earliest years to understand you?
So it's just a fact about human beings that the template that forms us will affect how we see the world, how we understand ourselves, how we relate to other people. And that early template is our earliest months, even in utero, already in the womb, we're being affected by the environment, but certainly in the early years when our brain is being formed and our personality is taking shape. And so that forms our worldview. Now, my worldview was, in my sense of self, was shaped by the fact that at 2 months of age, when I was 2 months of age, the German army occupied Hungary. Hungary was the last country in Eastern Europe where the Jewish population had not been exterminated, and that was our turn. The day after the German army marched into Budapest, which was March the 19th, 1944, the day after, my mother called the pediatrician to say, would you please come and see Gabor, because he's crying all the time. And the doctor said, of course I'll come, but all my Jewish babies are crying. And so that the fact is that when mothers are stressed or in pain, the infant feels all that and takes it personally, and it becomes part of their template for how they view the world. So that was that year. That's when that year began, in which my grandparents were killed in Auschwitz, and my father was away in forced labor, and my mother and I barely survived. And it's a story I've told many times, but that's when my brain is developing, and that's when I'm forming my sense of myself. And then my mother, to save my life, gives me to a stranger, and I don't see her for 6 weeks. The sense I get is that I'm not wanted, and I'm being rejected and abandoned, and because I'm not good enough. That's how my life began.
So your mother gives you away.
Okay, we made it slightly over 3 minutes.
We made it 3 minutes.
We had the discipline. I said 3, not 5. We did like 3 minutes and 7 seconds or something. Yeah. So to point out, his mom loved him. His mom is a good mother, a good woman, but just him seeing trauma on her face traumatized him. And she couldn't help but be stressed out. Freaking Nazis are invading, right? Anyone's gonna be stressed out. That right there can traumatize a child, because a child, what trauma is it is painful beliefs tied to painful feelings stuck in our subconscious. That is trauma. It's not someone punching you in the face as a kid. It's a belief you form as a result of being punched in the face, and the painful feeling tied, the belief that why did my mom hit me? Why did my dad hit me? I must not be good enough, or something along those lines. That's the trauma. So they had a study of Holocaust survivors, and the children who were born after the Holocaust, raised by these parents who were in the death and concentration camps, the children had a lot of trauma. And the researchers were like, where's all this trauma coming from? They investigated. They found out that just by observing the trauma the parents had traumatized the children. Just by hearing stories of what it was like in the concentration camps traumatized the children, because it leads these children to form certain traumatic beliefs. And his mom loved him, gave him away, what 6 to 8 weeks to save his life?
Yep.
Abandonment issues right there. So you can have parents that are doing their absolute best and loving parents, and you still get messed up as a kid.
Yeah.
It just happens, because children, when we are born into this world, our brain is super neuroplastic. It's just taking everything in. It's being programmed. It's being wired. All these beliefs are going in, and they're solidifying as they go in. And children interpret things a certain way. And so really everyone has some sort of childhood trauma. It could be mild, it could be extremely severe, but everyone has at least a little. You go in and fix it, it makes a big difference, a noticeable difference. Some people don't, and most people don't even realize. They're like, oh, why am I so messed up? Why do I keep getting in abusive relationships? Why this, why that? Why, it's all subconscious. What we do is we find the core deep root issues and we fix them, and we start with the most important issues first. And that's why you watch our video interviews, and Jordan does this, Tim does it, I do it. They're my video interviews because my channel, but guys, if you have some you want to submit, you can put on my channel or your own. It's up to you. The reason we get big results is because we use super neuroplasticity. We find it, we instantly rewire it, or almost instantly, takes a few hours. And then big changes, big permanent changes in people. We're doing the absolute most critical, most important, most powerful work on your subconscious that can be done, in my opinion. Go ahead, guys.
And Ryan, so if people are listening, Ryan talked about that reprogramming. So I'll give an example related to what Gabor Mate said. So he said his mother gave him away to protect him, but that made him feel as a young child like he was not good enough for her. And so if we're going back and we're doing an inner child work if I was going to work with Gabor Mate, it might look something like we would have the adult Gabor Mate explain to the child that no, you weren't being given away because you weren't good enough. You were being given away because you were so valuable. Your mother wanted to protect you and needed to protect you by sending you away. And so and that's how we reprogram that message, because his first interpretation was, I was given away because I wasn't good enough. Well, actually, the opposite is true. She loved you enough to know that she needed to protect you by giving you away. So that's something we do under hypnosis.
And
so we've heard of
him and haunted him for decades.
Right. Yeah. It still does today. I mean, it's probably a little bit of it's gone, but there's probably still some remnants in there.
Yeah, he used psilocybin and did fix a good chunk. But
right.
Yeah.
there is an opportunity to realize that there's not one typical childhood. There are so many variables happening in a child's life. If parents are arguing about money or arguing about who's taking the car somewhere, the kids feel everything. They get the vibes from the parents. Even when the parents love the children are trying to figure out what's going on around them. So you could have abuse or trauma develop because of a loving act, like his mother giving him away to protect him in his life, or someone who's out and out abusing you, calling you names and beating you and stuff like that, or to the point of just ignoring you, completely sitting you in the corner, giving you a TV, and there you go off and running, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. And then they stick you here in the West in daycare. Oh my goodness, what a
Where's
cesspool.
my mom and dad go? What are all these crazy people?
Oh, what a cesspool of insanity, where you've got people who really don't care about you deep down like your parents do. Other kids around now trying to sort out the pack of who's in charge and who's not in charge. So now if you're not the pack leader, you may end up being, I'm not good enough, or I don't belong to this group, or I mean, it goes on and on. The variables are immense during your 0 to 8 year development period that affect you for the rest of your life. Those are the things, like Jordan and Ryan both say, that we identify, which is tremendously important, and we remove. And then to that point, we reprogram that hole that's left in the subconscious programming with something that actually serves you and makes you know that you're great.
Okay, and P-Dubs, welcome to the show. Denise, welcome to the show. Leopard Leather That Works, that's your wife, Carrie. Welcome to the show. Also, Melanie, stay tuned. We're going to talk about all sorts of good stuff. Really, number one thing we do is we're, just so you guys know, we're not medical practitioners or licensed psychologists or anything like that. So we're
better
in the, what's that?
We're better.
Yeah, I'm trying to, like, true. But but we don't like diagnose or treat. Like, if someone comes to me, it's like, oh, you have general anxiety disorder and CPTSD, let me treat that. So we don't do that. What we do is we show you how to rewire your own subconscious. One-on-one guidance, or you can use our free program and do it yourself. And a lot of people get results with that. Some people struggle with the do it yourself because it's so foreign to them. Do a one-on-one session. You know, a lot of people will fix a lot of stuff on their own and then need help fixing other stuff. You know, I used to have really bad manic depression. I had CPTSD. I had general anxiety disorder. I had just trapped anger, just rage, because, you know, I had been psychologically abused quite severely growing up. 15 years of therapy, 100 sessions, normal CBT type sessions, fixed about 60% of my depression, a little bit of my rage, not much. Anxiety didn't even touch. Found this stuff at age 38, 12 years ago. Within 2 months, all the rage and depression forever gone. The stuff that the last few years of therapy did nothing. This stuff, 2 months, boom, gone. Once I figured out how to use it for anxiety went away quickly too. Took me about 2 years to figure that out. So powerful stuff. Go to our community, try the free stuff. If you want to know more, Melanie, absolutely go to our community. Take the free course we were showing you earlier. It's just right there. If we go to the links in the description too, but the link's right there. And take the course. There's an ebook on how our subconscious works. There's self-hypnosis audio. There's worksheets. There's training videos, and it's all free, and it's good stuff.
You know, I have a buddy. Let me just jump in here one more time. I have a buddy, and he's a Walmart store manager over in Arkansas, and him and his wife are very much into the foster program of the state. And they take foster children in, and some of them are 13, 14, 15-year-old children who are just need a place to land, and they are tremendous behavioral problems because they're riddled with this subconscious trauma. And if you can imagine being tossed around as a childhood, that's neglect. It's abuse.
Yeah, incredibly destabilizing, just chaos.
They're literally fighting for survival because they don't belong to anything deep in their mind, which obviously stems to they're not good enough. They were made defective. Nobody wants them, etc.
Here's another foster parent, get rid of me, toss me to someone else. I guess they didn't love me after all. And that happens multiple times. Yeah.
You know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very sad. A very bit for the vast majority of people, most or all of that can be fixed. So that's the good news. And that's why we have a show. So back to the good. Oh, wait. What am I doing here? There we go. All right, back to the clip. Dr. Mate dropping more gems here.
For 5 to 6 weeks,
Yeah.
in order to sort of save you from starvation in a ghetto that she was going to, right?
That's right.
This is after your grandparents were killed in Auschwitz by the Nazis. How do you know in hindsight that moment of those 6 weeks created that sense of abandonment in you?
I wouldn't say it's just about that one moment. Children very much view themselves through their interaction with their parents. Now, first of all, I had no father because he was gone. I hadn't seen him, except very briefly when I was a month old. But there was no father in the picture. My mother was grief-stricken and terrorized and full of woe and worry about what's going to happen to us, and just the task of surviving each day. She's not playful with me. She's not smiling at me very much. She's worried looking. She's stressed looking. The infant takes everything personally. That's just the nature of the infant. As infants, we're narcissists. We think it's all about us. So when things are great, hey, we're great. But when my mother's unhappy, it's because she doesn't want me, or I can't make her happy, or I'm inadequate. So that separation from my mother certainly set a template for some of my relationship interactions with my spouse decades later. But the sense of not being good enough and being responsible, that was inculcated in me throughout that whole first year of life. So much so.
This is toxic shame, which we've talked about over and over and over again, because it's so common in people, and toxic shame, feeling not good enough, as he puts it, causes massive problems later in life. We'll keep going. Just wanted to point that out.
So that in this book, The Myth of Normal, I actually talk about an experience with the psychedelic mushrooms with a therapist. This is not that long ago, 7 years ago maybe, when I'm at least 70 years old. And I'm in this therapeutic session with the psilocybin, the medicine, and the therapist. And I know that I'm 70 years old, and I know this is a therapy session, and I know her name, and I know who I am in the world. But at the same time, I'm experiencing myself as a 1-year-old baby, and she's my mother. And I start crying. Tears come down my face, and I say, I'm so sorry I made your life so difficult. Now, that was an unconscious memory of my sense of myself as a 1-year-old, that I made my mother's life so difficult, because that's the way the baby interprets it. So even if your mother loves you, which mine did infinitely, not that she always treated me the best way possible, but she did love me. And can you imagine what a great act of love even giving me to a stranger in the street would have been for her, you know? But because of her own unhappiness, I can only conclude that I'm not good enough. It's my fault.
At 70 years old, having that psilocybin experience.
I mean, you can pause.
Good grief, right? But this happens. Oh, this is how kids are. Yeah. Go ahead, Jordan.
Well, like Ryan said many times before, I mean, we view our parents like gods because we rely on them for our survival. And so if we rely on them for our survival, if something is wrong, it's not evolutionarily advantageous to view them as the problem. It's more helpful to view ourselves as the problem. We need to make sure we are exactly as we need to be for our survival. So whatever they need from us, we we try and provide as a kid, because if we don't provide, we were worried we'll die. So that's how every child thinks, because our parents are gods. So
yeah, I must be able to do something to make myself worthy of my parents' love, because if I'm not worthy of their love, or they don't love or want me, they may abandon me. And I can't accept, because we need our parents to be ideal, to feel safe that they're able to take care of us. We don't put the blame on them. We don't want to say, well, there's nothing I can do, because then we're completely powerless. That's terrifying too. So the only choice left is there must be something I can do to make sure my mom and dad want, love me, value me, so that they won't abandon me, so that they will take care of me. And so this baby is like feeling bad for imposing burdens on the mom who loves him, because he's like, if I'm too much of a burden, mom will leave. And this is evolutionary psychology. If the parents leave, the kid dies. If a baby has no one to take care of the baby, that baby dies. That baby can't hunt for a deer and then skin it and then cook it up,
Can't even start a fire.
Can't walk to the grocery store and pull $100 out of his wallet and buy groceries, go home. It's a baby. A 5-year-old can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some really amazing 5-year-olds could do that, but yeah. So that's why we behave the way we behave. Totally.
So let me point something out real quick. If you suffered toxic shame in your childhood, and that developed into a subconscious trauma program that's now running in your subconscious, and that subsequently in your adult life is causing depression, anxiety, addiction, procrastination, whatever thing it is that doesn't serve you and gets you in the way, or gets in your way, your brain is working 100% correctly. It's exactly how it's designed to work. Your brain is supposed to create anxiety. It will create too much anxiety because that's how it's reacting. It's not good for you. A little bit of anxiety is good. A lot of anxiety is not productive. So realize you're not defective. Your brain is working perfectly. What we need to do is reprogram that software that your brain is running on so that you can now function well.
Yeah, trauma can cause anxiety to trigger maladaptively.
Yep.
So, I tell people, if you're walking on a 2-foot wide mountain path and it's 1,000-foot drop on the right, you should be anxious and scared. That's going to keep you cautious, or it's going to make you say, I'm going to take a safer path. It's a longer route, but it's safer. I'm going to do that instead. You avoid death. But when we have all this anxiety that is not serving us, not helping us, not keeping us safe or alive, that is triggered by subconscious trauma. You fix that trauma, that maladaptive anxiety goes away. And so, by the way, if you saw this very important video I did on super neuroplasticity, where Dr. Andrew Huberman talks about the elements that must be present to be able to just rewire your brain like that. And that's what you can do it with some types of psychedelics with a guided session. You absolutely can. You can do it with hypnosis, what we do, or psychedelics. And there's it's not exactly the same. There's a lot of overlap between the two. My next video coming in just a few days, Super Neuroplasticity Part 2, we're going to have Dr. Huberman talk about the neurochemical effects of certain psychedelics versus what's going on with hypnosis. He's going to talk about accelerated plasticity, as he puts it. I call it neuroplasticity, and how it works in tandem with that. But the elements that need to be present, and which all of them were present here with what Dr. Mate just talked about. He said he went back to his childhood where the root subconscious belief formed. He wasn't even aware he had this belief in him. I'm sorry, I'm causing you so much difficulty, Mom. He went back to that original painful belief. So number one is you get to the belief. It's recognition and awareness of what is inside you messing you up. That, combined with intense emotionality, he was crying and he's feeling all this, I'm not good enough, I'm not wanted, shame, etc. And intense focus, attention on the thing that needs to be fixed. That puts you in a super neuroplastic state where you can just change it. So one of the things I do is I actually give my clients a new narrative that they say out loud. You know, this feeling, this belief isn't true. My mom actually did love me. You can just say it out loud when you're in that moment. That's one of the techniques you can use to rewire. My mom did love me, but she had to give me a way to keep me alive. I am good enough. I'm not a burden for my mom. She wanted to take care of me. So this belief isn't true. And then use some techniques, send that pain away, and then you're permanently fixed.
Now, let me ask.
Do it all day, every day. You could do it with certain types of psychedelics. I don't use psychedelics or hypnosis, but you get those elements. Get back to the root cause, awareness and recognition of that, intense focus on it, intense emotionality. Those are and then afterwards, deep rest or deep sleep. But in hypnosis, you actually get the deep sleep or deep rest there as well. So it combines all 4 elements. You get those 4 elements and then change your brain when that's happening with these methods. And it literally permanently, almost instantly changes. That's super neuroplasticity, and the science is there. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, as a disclaimer, one of the things we're not doing is putting the kibosh on normal psychotherapy, psychological practices that are out there, because they have the ability to identify things as well.
They're helpful, they're just incomplete.
Hang on, let me finish. What I am saying, though, is if you have been for 50 years bad-mouthing yourself, negative self-talk, negative activities, self-deprecation, all that kind of stuff, what we do will make that psychological, family therapy, psychotherapy, whatever, a whole lot more effective, because we've gone to the root, removed the trauma, reprogrammed you, and now they can help you talk well to yourself. Because I have seen people that we have helped, and then over another 5 or 8 week period, they have continually, because it's practice and habit, self-deprecated and talked bad about themselves and yelled at themselves and stuff like that. And they will undo what we've done. So it is important that you just don't get a hypnotherapy session and roll on through your life. It's important that you remove the trauma, reprogram those programs, and then maybe get additional help, maybe your own, maybe a psychologist or something like that, to help you through all the negative stuff you're doing to yourself. It'll be a lot more effective if we're in there first.
Yeah. Stop treating yourself terribly. Be kind to yourself.
Yep.
And I have had clients where after the session, they're like, I felt so much better and calmer and clearer, and I'm happier than I've been in years. And then a few days to a month later, they're back to feeling crappy again. And I go in and find out why. And it's not many, it's a few, because most people we just help and they're better. But the few where they undo the progress we make, I go back, I investigate, and they're all just terrible negative self-talk, just re-traumatizing themselves. And I tell them not to do it, and most don't. A small number do, and they go back to crapville. It's really tragic. One of them did come back and do more hypnosis and stop the negative self-talk, and now he's way better. But he did that the first session, and he undid all the progress, and we did a lot. We made a ton of progress this session. He undid it, but he came back and fixed it later on. It's all
this
good.
is a process of peeling that onion to get down to the juicy stuff on the inside. You get rid of the big stuff, then you got a little smaller stuff popping up. All of that has to be unpeeled so that you can be a very functional person.
Yeah, so this with psilocybin, this is what Dr. Gabor Mate with the therapist did for himself. Another type way to get accelerated neuroplasticity and fix that thing. The interesting thing, though, is psilocybin is illegal under federal law, and it's illegal in 48 states. And that just, I think at a high powers that be systemic level, in fact, there is massive evidence that there is massive fraud in the mental health industry. And we've exposed it before, like the whole SSRIs, the serotonin, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. There was no evidence for that drug that it worked. It was a hypothesis. Psychax, that channel, Dr. Ryan Taraban, he talks about this. It's been exposed. The The data is out there. Those SSRIs are 3% more effective than placebo. And the person who came up with a hypothesis later recanted it and said, no, this isn't true. It didn't stop the pharmaceutical companies from making it the main treatment prescribed for depression by psychiatrists for like, 20, 30 years. So to hell with those guys. They suck. But I think there's good there too. But there's so much corruption in the mainstream. They do some good, but then they take something that changed Dr. Gabor Mate's life, something that actually worked at a massive level, and they make it illegal. It was illegal in 50 states. Oregon and Colorado legalized it, and they make it illegal. To hell with these scumbags. They are greedy. I'm not talking about your average psychotherapist who wants to help people, doesn't know any better. But at the highest level, they are freaking greedy, rotten to the core scumbags. They absolutely are. But he did it anyways, even though maybe he went to the state where it was legalized, but it's still illegal under federal law. But he was smart enough to do it anyways and change his life. So good for him. Well,
he's in Canada, so maybe it's legal up there. Who knows?
Yeah, it might. That's a good point. It might be legal in Canada. I'm not sure. Okay, we'll keep going.
The only thing I wanted to add was
that realization.
Hypnosis shows you that you already have all the tools within you to make these massive changes.
You fix yourself.
Have to use these external drugs or psilocybin or SSRI. You don't have to use these external things. You already have the power within you to make these massive changes. Right. We just show you how to do it through hypnosis.
We hold your hand.
Yeah. Or you just go on our, our MindChrysalis platform, take the classes, fill out the worksheet, do it yourself, fix yourself. So, and we have people doing that. A lot of people at some point will want some guidance on stuff they can't figure out on their own, but I found self-hypnosis 12 years ago, changed my life. I did a bunch of stuff for 2 years before I had anyone do a one-on-one session. I fixed 90% of my issues by then, and most of it within the first 2 months. So very powerful stuff. You're fixing yourself. Certain psychedelics can be an aid when used correctly. And that's what Dr. Gabor Mate is doing here. I'd say there's a very small percentage of people who won't respond well to hypnosis, who will respond better to certain psychedelics. So if you're in that very small group, we're talking a few percent of people hypnosis doesn't work well for, psychedelics might. So, but it's two roads to the same thing, more or less.
Having that sort of having that response to your therapist where they take the role of your mother and you're a 1-year-old. How does somebody at 70 years old go about correcting that sort of interpretation you had of that traumatic early event?
Well, by bringing up to the conscious level. Then when I notice that sense of guilt or responsibility in me, I say, oh, that's what it's about. So it's a meaning. See, trauma, as I define it, is not about what happens to us. It's about what happens inside of us as a result of what happens to us. And so the wound in trauma means wound. So the wound in this case is my sense of deficiency or not being good enough, not being worthy enough. Once I realize that, oh, this has got nothing to do with anything except this interpretation that I made of my own experience all those years ago, then when I notice it, I can no longer believe it. I don't have to any longer be a subject to that interpretation of myself in the world. So
just to clarify, that's the first step of 4 to change your brain. He had the other 3 steps present, but I don't know if he fully realizes it, that because he said, I was crying from something that happened. So he had intense emotionality. He was intensely focusing on this memory, and what he's talking about now, the awareness. And then you just get sleep afterwards. So it's 4 steps. He's talking about the first one.
So let's also bring out that
rewire your brain. That's what Dr. Andrew Huberman says. The science there.
So the CEO guy, Dyer, the CEO guy, he asked him, how do you do it? And he says, you make it conscious.
Yeah.
Right.
That's number one. That's
Carl Jung the father of modern day psychology and psychotherapy, he's dead now, died a number of years ago, but he said, until you make the unconscious, which he's talking about the subconscious, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will run your life and you will think it is fate. Like there's nothing you can do about it.
Yep.
So he is making the unconscious conscious.
And it had been affecting his life up to that point, and he didn't know why. You get back through, oh, now I know why. And now you that's the first step to changing it, is becoming aware of it. If you want to change it like really quick, you get that intense focus, intense emotionality, and then get rest after, or in hypnosis, you're already in a restful state. Those are the 4 steps.
Yep.
To superneuroplasty instant rewiring. Now, what the CBT guys do is their neuroplasticity is awareness plus repetition. So you become aware of something, and then you practice, like you do affirmations 1,000 times. Or anytime you have a negative thought, you come up with a counter narrative. Say, no, this negative thought isn't true. And you do it like time after time after time, at coping mechanisms, time after time, 1,000 times, 2,000 times. And that will slowly, gradually rewire your brain. But I'm talking from experience. I did it for 15 years, 100 sessions over 15 years, like on and off. It takes freaking forever. And there's a lot of stuff it never touches. So that is a type of neuroplasticity, but it's so much slower, and it's not as deep and instant as what Dr. Gabor Mate, who used psilocybin, did, and what we do. It's way slower.
Correct.
But that's another way. If you want to do the less effective way, yeah, sure, go for it.
It's a whole lot more expensive.
We believe in repetition too, to like reinforce and add to the permanent changes we make. We believe in that.
What does 100 psychotherapy sessions cost, along with the drugs they're going to prescribe over the next 15 years, Ryan?
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, easily 10,000 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not just the monetary cost, but the time invested.
You know it.
of not
and then
doing
I
much.
spend a few $100s and fix the rest of it, almost all the rest of it, for a few $100 very quickly, much more quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. We'll keep going. He's getting core stuff here. We're 9 minutes in. Okay, we'll keep going.
One step. It's not adequate, but it's an essential step towards letting go.
That one belief that you weren't good enough.
Yeah.
How did that rear its ugly head throughout your life?
It made me a workaholic physician because I had to keep proving my worth.
Bingo, right there.
Yeah,
number
this
one.
is toxic shame. This is the number one thing we fix.
Yeah, he became addicted to work, which calms his mind and makes him try to prove that he is good enough, which means he's now seeking external validation, which you never have enough of that cake.
Temporary
Never,
fix
ever have enough of that cake.
It's a temporary fix at best, and some people use alcohol as a fix. Some people use drugs. Some people use porn. Some use video games. You know, some people use social media, likes, subscribes, follows, you know, to cover up this I'm not good enough. And guess what? The CEO, he has toxic shame too. Either this show or another show, they pointed out how he works like crazy, probably to get some sort of validation to feel good enough. And he's like, oh yeah, I think that's true. So toxic shame is so pervasive and causes people to live such unbalanced lives.
Right. Working that much
not getting what they want
covers that subconscious trauma. It makes him not think about it.
Yeah, let's just fix it so you're just happy and you don't have to work 100 hours a week to be happy. Or you don't have to like get drunk every day or every weekend, you know, to just deal with your pain. Or you don't have to emotionally shut down and now you're an apathetic person leading a mediocre life because you're shut down. That's how you deal with your pain, you know. Or you have anxiety all the time because you're worried about constantly doing something that's going to embarrass you or make you look like a failure and trigger that pain. So you just have anxiety all the time, hypervigilant, looking out for ways to avoid feeling not good enough. avoid rejection, etc. All right, keep moving.
Well, I don't know if you ever had an addiction, but the nature of it is that we're trying to get from the outside something that only can arise and fulfill us from the inside. So when you're looking at it from the outside, it's addictive because you get it temporarily, but then that internal emptiness, that hole, never goes away. So it has to be filled over and over and over again. It can only be done so temporarily. So it becomes runaway addictive. So then, work becomes an addiction because I keep trying to prove my worth. And it doesn't matter how many times, I may show up in a positive way at the beginning of someone's life, at the end of somebody else's life, or any time in between. It never fills that emptiness that my sense of lack of worthiness creates. So that's one way it shows up. Another way it shows up is if in my relationship, I don't feel as satisfied. My wife doesn't please me the way I like her to. Then I get angry. But why am I getting angry? I'm getting angry because it's my sense of not being good enough that's being now revealed. It gets uncovered. This self-accusation. But I get angry at her because her job is to make me not feel that. We get into this relationship for all kinds of reasons. Some of them are conscious, some are not. Some are positive, some are come out of trauma. And in my case, I want that relationship to prove to me how good I am. So when it isn't proving that, then I get upset with my partner, except
a lot of women do this in marriages with men. The women, again, not all. There's happy marriages. There's marriages where men and women are, very happy with each other, or it's not perfect, but they're more or less happy. You kind of, there's the stereotype of the constant nagging wife. That's what we're talking about here. There's a lady, the Happy Wife School. She has a YouTube channel. I think that's what it's called.
It is.
And she talks about these women who constantly emasculate their men. They use sex as a weapon to control the men, like they withhold it or drip feed it to get the men to do their husbands. They constantly criticize, control, manipulate, put down their husbands, turn their husband the husband either can get angry or become a shell and withdraw. Neither one is good. But he says these women, the reason they do it is because they're not happy with themselves and they treat themselves very poorly and they feel very badly about themselves. So they then direct all that negativity into the outside world so they don't have to focus on themselves. Now, one thing I'll point out about Dr. Mate is a lot of people get angry. Anger, I wouldn't say, is a very pleasant feeling, but it feels much better than toxic shame. So you can cover your toxic shame, which is the most painful emotion we have. You can cover it with anger. I'm feeling angry. Well, this feels better than feeling like I'm worthless. So that, not just like, oh, well, she should do this to help me feel better and get angry at her for that, but just the actual emotion of anger feels better than toxic shame, and it's a way to cover it and get away from it.
Well, anger is a sense of power, right?
You're trying to get power. Yeah. It's an empowering feeling.
So there is righteous anger when you are being threatened, when you are being attacked. There are times to
someone you love being
appropriately, appropriately portray anger. But when you're generally angry all the time and reacting to another toxic person, there's a bit of a bullying effect in there because you're trying to get them to back down or get what you want. That's not healthy because the other person is going to react to your bullying, and it just really isn't a good happy ending.
Yeah, it's not good. But I love Dr. Mate because you can tell he has been through adversity, like massive internal adversity. He's come out on the other side, and for people who struggle, when you heal from this, on the other side of suffering is wisdom. You end up like this guy who's like freaking like inner world Yoda. Just his wisdom is off the charts, And these are the guys that are inspirations for us, like, Gabor Mate, Andrew Huberman. These are world-class, world-famous leading scientists. They're saying all the stuff we say. Where we shine is we are better at the application of rewiring your brain to actually fix all this stuff he's talking about.
Right.
And that's why we have a show, because what we do is so powerful. I taught it to Tim and Jordan. You guys got trained somewhat by the guy who trained me, just the general hypnosis, and then some of my stuff on top. And we're changing lives with it. And it's our goal to change the world with this, because what we do is so freaking powerful. So, and it fixes this type of stuff.
The gap is inside me, not inside.
Go ahead, Jordan.
And I'll add on to your point about the nagging wife, or a wife who uses sex as a weapon to control their husband's behavior. The other side of that is she has to be married to a guy who that works on.
Mm-hmm.
If he has, subconscious issues that allow that kind of manipulation to work, then it's, she found a target that works on. And when you remove those subconscious programs, you are not going to be susceptible to that kind of control. It just doesn't work. I mean, you might get fooled initially, but the moment you notice that other person is manipulative like that, they're
like,
not
I'm not dealing with this. Nope,
you anymore. And so you'll throw that person out of your life, because it's just not, that you don't deserve to be treated that way. It just doesn't work.
And it doesn't have power over you. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not just, crapping on the women. Dr. Mate's talking about his stuff, his anger towards his wife. So, men and women, we each have, maybe generally speaking, somewhat different ways we deal with trauma, although there's a lot of equivalent ways or the same ways. So not just crapping on the women, but that is a tendency. The guys can become withdrawn or angry. The women just can start nagging the hell out of you. Or using shame as a weapon, using sex as a weapon, all those things. And that's women trying to handle their trauma in a maladaptive way.
To be fair to everybody,
all
of us have a behavior. And that behavior of me, someone else will observe maybe even differently than I'm intending it.
Yep.
So when we say the wife nagging the husband, because that's stereotypically the thing that's in the moniker of the West, right? The reality is that the man feels so inadequate that even if she responded positively and he didn't get what he wanted to get, then she's a nag.
Yeah.
Right. And now he's angry because he didn't get it. He's mad at her, mad at him. I mean, this toxic shame and subconscious trauma is just a circular tornado down into the drain.
It messes up so many things, relationships. Yeah.
Right. And all the things we're talking about are just symptoms of dysfunctional behavior. What is dysfunctional behavior? Behavior that's not functional. Behavior that doesn't serve the greater good. Behavior that doesn't serve you, selfishly speaking, right? Yeah. We all want to achieve and learn and grow and have less trauma in our lives, less stress. But until you get rid of it, it just keeps popping up. So go ahead.
All right. Thanks, Tim.
It's not coming from her. So it shows up. It showed up in my parenting. It shows up all over the place.
I mean, I think both of those examples sound a lot like me, especially the first one.
Yeah.
He has toxic shame too. Listen to that. I'm telling you, it's extremely common. Most people have this to some degree.
The second one as well, but
in what sense?
In the sense that I'm definitely a workaholic, and I think in the earlier phases of my life, I sacrificed everything in this pursuit of becoming a millionaire and having all this stuff and really getting this validation. Sacrificed meaningful connections, everything in the pursuit of this one thing.
Well, part of the toxicity of the culture that I talk about in this book is that it actually rewards that kind of emptiness or that desperate seeking to fill that emptiness, because you get rewarded. You make a lot of money. A lot of people admire you. You get to
notice his body language, his arms crossed. He's a little uncomfortable here. This guy on the right. We'll keep going.
To feel good about yourself, mind you.
But
I
admire this guy that he's authentic and honest. He's keeping it real. So good for him. But what he just said is that this is proper vulnerability. Like, I don't even like the word vulnerability, but this is what proper vulnerability is. You're honest, you're authentic about, hey, I'm not perfect. I have these struggles too. And these are two human beings having a real connection here. It's really a great thing. Go ahead, Jordan.
I want to be clear because to not misconstrued what I can't remember what his name is, but
Stephen Bartlett.
Yeah.
Stephen. So he's using that word sacrifice. He says, I sacrificed all these things to work. And the reason it's not that doing those things is inherently unhealthy. He's doing those things so that he can try and feel good enough.
Yep.
And so it's that never ending void of if I just do one more thing, I work a little harder, then I'll be good enough. Then I'll be good enough. That's the unhealthy part.
And that does not rewire your subconscious beliefs.
Right.
Correct.
And it's not that working hard and having a goal and wanting to achieve something is inherently unhealthy. That's not unhealthy. But notice the language choice he's also using. He's saying, I sacrificed these things. But those are really it's not necessarily a sacrifice. It's just the choices he made. If he felt good enough and he still made those choices, he would just say I chose to do those things. But he's viewing them as a sacrifice because he knows inherently that he's making those choices to try and mask the feeling of not being good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So his feelings of not feeling good enough were, I want to be a millionaire. Well, why do you want to be a millionaire? Well, he wanted to be a millionaire because that would bring him value. That would bring him
and I'll
worth.
be good enough.
And other people would look at him and go, he's good enough.
Right.
But it doesn't matter because he doesn't feel good enough internally. So getting $10 million or pounds or wherever he is won't do any good. It's a hole that can't be filled. Just like Gabor Mate said, it's a hole that can't be filled by the external validation.
You got to fix it internally.
And that doesn't mean you don't aim for the 10 million or the
Absolutely.
however much you want.
If that's what you want.
You know it. You know it.
Right.
No problem with money. No problem with wealth. I'm just saying that doesn't bring you what he's looking for.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so we're a little over an hour in, probably at a pretty good stopping point here.
Part two, of course. Maybe
Part
we
two
probably need to do a part two. Look how far we got in 12 minutes.
What did we get, about 10 minutes in?
Yeah, I started at like 2 minutes. We're at like 12:30 now. So
10 and a half minutes.
It's just so dense here. There's just so much. We'll do part two next week. Do you guys have any final thoughts?
No, said it all. We'll be here next week.
I agree. All right. So
my only final thought is I like that Gabor Mate is very aware of how his wife's actions affect him. And that self-awareness, I think, is the first step. When she does this, I get triggered. And I know I get triggered because of the beliefs I have about myself. And so that kind of self-awareness is kind of the first step to getting that fixed. A lot of people have none of that self-awareness. And I also find when I'm interacting with other people in my own life, if they get upset or angry at something I've done, not intentionally, not specifically to irritate them, but it helps me not place as much judgment on other people because I understand why they're reacting the way they are. And then I can kind of orient my behavior so that I don't trigger them as much to improve that relationship. I mean, because I can't do a hypnosis session on everybody who I trigger, right? It's just not practical. But what I can do is at least be conscious of how I interact with that person so that I can have the best relationship I can.
You know it.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Jordan. So that is our show for today. The good news is, we don't have unlimited control of the outside world. People are trying to get the outside world to validate them or make them say, we cannot, there's so much we cannot control. We have limited control of the outside world. But what we have 100% control of, as long as we are willing and we have the knowledge and know how to do it, we have 100% control of what is in us. If you don't know how to control it, we're here to help. We will help you learn, and then you fix your core, and then go off and have a great life. Keep learning, keep growing, keep moving on your path that leads you where you want to go. The good news is you have that power within you to change your own core, to become happy, to get all the good beliefs, to get the fulfillment you want, and then you go out and live a great life. The power is not outside of us. The power is inside of us. We're here to help show you what that is, but truly, you do have more power than you know. That's our show. Thanks for watching.